Hello everybody, my name is Sheila or SL Reads, and today I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up. I'm not going to do a TBR with this for February because I read so many books in January that I just feel like I need a break. I don't want to set myself any expectations. I think I kind of exhausted myself with the number of books that I read this month because I read 11 books in January. That is a lot. Some of them were really fantastic and really great starts to the year. Some of them were kind of disappointing, so I'm just going to get right into it because it's going to be a long video. That's a lot of books to talk about. The first book that I read in January was Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. It is a graphic novel. It's by the same author as Scott Pilgrim, which I haven't read. It's such a great graphic novel. I love the art style, I loved the storyline, I loved the message that it was sending about second chances and about just being a better person all in all, and I don't really want to spoil it. You should just go into it not really knowing anything. That's what I did, and it was a great decision because I was really on the edge of my seat at some points and I didn't really know what was going to happen. The next book that I read was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I think that's how you say that. The reason I read this was because it just became a movie starring Armie Hammer and Timothy something French. And so I mainly read it because I knew it was becoming a movie. I love Italy and it is set in Italy. It was an okay book. If you want to experience the story, I would definitely just recommend going and seeing the movie. It works better as a movie somehow. The movie is very aesthetically pleasing. The book is written in a stream of consciousness manner. You're kind of in the 17-year-old's head as he goes through this coming-of-age story and this sexual awakening, I guess. That is one thing that is rather problematic about the book, is that it does involve a relationship between a 17-year-old and a man who's in his mid-20s. There were lots of weird scenes in it. That's why I took a few stars off. And also, I thought the main character was very annoying. I am 18, so I'm not that much older than him, and it is a different time period and everything, but he was just not that fun to read from the perspective of. The next book that I read was Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This was fantastic. I didn't even know this was a book for a while. I just knew it was a movie because I love the movie. It was definitely a 5-star read. It is different than the movie, but it works in its format. Like, if you took the exact story of the book and made it into a movie, it would not be as fantastic as the movie is, and vice versa. It works in its respective format, and it's just such a fantastic story. If you want to see more about Howl's dramatic ass, then just go ahead. You get this really cool backstory for Howl that you don't get in the movie, and I understand why they didn't include it in the movie because there were so many other things going on. The plot is still good versus evil, but it does have a different villain. It gives you a lot more information. It's a series, so I'm hoping to pick up the other books sometime soon. The next book that I read in January was Wolfsong by TJ Klune. This is a fantastic story about queer werewolves. It's just, I feel like that's a really good way to put it. That's the way the author has talked about it, and it's very true. It is about a boy named Ox who is told by his father that he isn't worth anything and that people will never understand him, and then he leaves. Ox has a fantastic relationship with his mother as a result from this, and he also forms a great friendship and just giant family relationship with the Bennett family. He becomes best friends with Joe, and through that pretty much becomes part of the Bennett family. Eventually you find out that they're werewolves, and pretty shocking. This has a fantastic romance in it. It spans over a decade of Ox's life, and through that time you get to see friendship developing and eventually becoming a romance. Even when the seeds of that romance seem to be planted, there's still a big time jump before anything is actually acted upon, so this was definitely counted as a slow burn romance. Possibly the slowest burn. This is a series, and the second one is coming out this July, and I'm so looking forward to it. It follows a different character in this story. The next book is Simon vs. the Homo sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I did not pick this up for so long because I thought it was too good to be true. I was like, it sounds like it's gonna be gay, so I don't think it will be, because young Sheila was an idiot. Fun fact. But I read this book really fast as well. I feel like that happened. That's the reason I read so many books this month, was because I just kept reading them really fast, in a day or in 12 hours or something like that, and this was one of them. I definitely related to Simon and his feelings about coming out, where he wasn't really that worried about it. It was just something that was going to happen at some point. He just hadn't gotten around to it yet. I feel like it's so weird to read a story about high school now that I'm out of high school. It feels like I still relate to them so much, but I'm older than all the characters in this book, and that's just strange to me. That's so weird. I would definitely say that this is one of the best contemporaries that I've ever read. It is so fun. It's a cute romance. For those of you who don't know, this is about Simon, who is a gay teen. He has great friends. He has a fantastic family. This is one of the best families that I've seen in a while in a YA book. Usually, the YA protagonist is brooding and is oh, my family doesn't help me with anything. Not Simon. His family's great. At the beginning of this book you find out that he has been emailing this other gay kid at school. He doesn't know who he is, but he knows that he goes to a school. He posted something on their school Tumblr, and so there's definitely a mystery of trying to figure out who this other person is. His name is Blue, but that's not actually his name. The movie is coming out soon, and I'm so excited. I read this thinking it was coming out in January for some reason, and it's not, and I'm really sad. I'm about to drop so much money on Becky Albertalli because she just released a special edition of this with Blue and Simon's original emails, because the emails that you see at the beginning of this start out from a few months in, I think. You don't see their original emails, and I believe they're going to be featured in the movie, and that's the reason that they have to show that. It's kind of what the trailers have hinted at, but the major plot of this is that somebody finds out that he has been emailing this boy, thus finding out that he is gay, and that there's another gay kid at school, and begins blackmailing him for that, which is not cool, but I mean, it has a happy ending. There's some stressful parts, and there's some sad parts, but it definitely works out in the end, and I really cannot wait until I see the movie. The next book that I read was Barely a Later by Cassandra Khaw. I really did not like this. I picked it up because it was a short book, and I liked the cover of it. I had seen people talking about it before, and I swear I heard that it had bisexual representation in it, which is why I read it. However, the main character literally says that she's not bisexual. She's like, oh, I'm just straight. I just happen to like this girl. While many people will be like, oh, that's bisexuality. Like, I think that's dumb. As someone who is bisexual, I would just like you to say it. Like, fun fact, in Wolfsong, a character says, I'm bisexual. Like, he literally says it. Like, I think he says it multiple times. It's like Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She says she's bisexual like 6 times. Going into this book, which I believe is a novella, it was like really short, thinking that there was going to be a bisexual main character, and then like, it just didn't turn out that way. It was kind of annoying. It does have representation for a plus-size character, so if you want to read that, then that's cool. But it does have some gross language. Like, by creating this kind of bisexual character, but not really, which is like a trope that happens all the time where they just don't label it. And this, the author paints men as like disgusting beasts, and yeah, they're all like werewolf-like things, and so they are kind of beasts, but it's just like, she tried too hard to make men disgusting. She built up a few relationships with guys and then just made it like they were the most slimy men around, and then this relationship with this girl was the one that you should go towards, even though the only build up for that would be that she said that she had had a crush on her before the events of the book happened, and then not that much happened in the book with this relationship. So really, I just was not satisfied with the ending. I just thought it was dumb. The next book that I read was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I read this for the Biannual Bibliothon, and I think everything else that I'm going to be talking about is something that I read for that. I really liked this. This is about a girl who's the creator of an online webcomic that's like really, really famous, and she ends up meeting the like top fan fiction writer for this webcomic. It doesn't reveal who she is, and eventually it gets revealed, and that was very stressful for me. I was trying to figure out the whole time, because this is all stuff that is said in the synopsis. Like, if you read like the inside cover, or if you read online, it will tell you all the stuff I just said. It left me very stressed out trying to figure out when she was going to be exposed, who exactly was going to expose her. This does have representation for a character with anxiety, and I thought it was going to be more prevalent throughout the entire book. It really takes hold of her at one point in the book. I feel like this is a great commentary on the relationship between creators and what they have created. Like, I feel like the more famous you are, the more likely you are to get hated upon, and I feel like that's just very disgusting, and that you should not send hate to somebody or try to stalk somebody just because you like or don't like the thing that they've created. The next book is Richard III by William Shakespeare. I'm in a Shakespeare class, and so I'm reading a bunch of Shakespeare plays. This is the last of Shakespeare's histories. It follows a duke named Richard who has like one goal, and that's to be king, and also the secondary goal is just to kill everybody that he knows. My professor said that it was kind of the precursor to Macbeth, where it has kind of a similar murdering to get to be king sort of thing happening. This is from really early on in Shakespeare's career, and I feel like you can kind of see that. Like, it's kind of like less elevated of language and just storyline and everything, but I enjoyed this. Something that I'm trying to do for every single Shakespeare play that I read is figure out like the real world application, because Shakespeare is so applicable to everything, and we even talked about this in class. And the thing that this deals with, I would definitely say, is like gaslighting and the Me Too movement. There's a woman who clearly hates him, and then he like manipulates her until she has like 2 options, and that's to kill him or to marry him, and it's really creepy. He's a really weird character. He's not actually like what Richard III was like historically, but he's just like this evil tyrant. It's really interesting. Not my favorite Shakespeare play, but it's still pretty cool. The next book that I read was Otherworld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. I hated this book so much, I'm not even gonna lie. This was awful. I'm going to be filming a review for it, which is going to be a disaster. Just as a warning. I like video games. This book is about video games. It's about a virtual reality video game, and so that's part of the reason I was drawn to it. It was the book that everybody was supposed to read for the Biannual Bibliothon, so that's the reason I did pick it up. The main character was just inexcusably disgusting. I'm not going to go into this too much since I am going to be filming that review. The main character was awful. I saw a few reviews that said he was awful, but they still gave it a good rating because the video game was good. That wasn't even that good, especially with that main character being inside of his head, seeing him as this whole like chosen one. He's like, I'm not the one, and everyone's like, you're the one, dude. Like, it's just too much. Not good. Not a fan. You want video games in your life? Please just go play a video game. The next book that I read is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I didn't really like this either. I had been reading it for like a month and so it was really slow going. My main issue with this is the narrator. It is told from the perspective of Poirot, who is the investigator for this murder, and it's in third person, but it's not omniscient third person, and so you don't see anything that's going on inside his head. So he's getting all this information, all this evidence from the different interviews he's conducting, a murder scene, and everything really going on, and you don't get any of his thought processes about that until all the way at the end, after all the evidence is gathered, that each person is like lined up. And I thought this was good for like a little bit, like the little bit when they were like, oh, I think we know who it is, and then they actually figured out who it was, and it was the dumbest ending ever. And the last book that I read in January was Shane by Jack Schaefer. This was really fun. It's a Western. I've never read a Western before. I got this recommendation from my dad. I didn't know what to expect from a Western. I thought there would be cowboys. It was literally where I draw the line of where my knowledge ended. Like, I had no idea where this was gonna go. It was such a fun read. It's told from the perspective of like a 10-year-old, maybe younger than that. And the story of Shane is about this man who comes to his town. They're homesteaders. He comes to stay with them, and he ends up working for them, and the big villain is like this man who wants to like kick all the homesteaders out, and that was definitely interesting to see after reading so many books with like the big evil villain that you can't really like apply to real world, but this is something that probably actually happened. Like, it was just a fun read all around. I really enjoyed it. So that is the end of my January wrap up. Like I said, I'm not going to be setting a TBR for myself for February. Let me know down below what books you read in January or what books you hope to read in February. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos from me, then please subscribe. I put out videos every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!